and welcome, Claire. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
So you were a previous client of mine, which is amazing. And
Yep.
I wanted you to come on and talk all about your experience of birth. Because not only do you have an amazing positive birth story, which is brilliant, you also were somebody who did hold quite a lot of fear in you around birth before you had your little boy River. So it's important to talk about that, and I want you to share your journey, share how you felt before you did hypnobirthing and how you felt afterwards, and then obviously share your incredible story as well. Would be brilliant.
Yeah, sure.
So as I said, when you first contacted me and when we first kind of touched base, I know you had a fair bit of fear.
Yeah.
Why hypnobirthing? Like, how did you discover it? Why did you think hypnobirthing would help with that?
Yeah. So I think I came across your podcast in the bath of all places when I was trying to be calm. I think I was about 28 weeks at that point. And I think about 3 years ago, I had a miscarriage and came across hypnobirthing by just research. So I came across KG, the book, and actually had the book. And just at that point, I'm not sure I really knew what it was about. I just knew I was really into meditating, and kind of that process I thought would kind of help. So it's kind of like dual. I already had that in the back of my head, but obviously then was pregnant and knew I was very, very fearful, and then kind of stumbled across it again and was like, oh yeah, I remember this from 3 years ago. And yeah, I just, because of the meditation, I'd spent a good year or two working on myself, meditating, going to counselling, and just practicing breathing. So I think when I came across it again, and all this kind of fear and anxiety had kind of really pent up at this point, it was like, 28 weeks. I just, I think I just made a split decision. I think I listened to your podcast and I was just like, this is probably what I should do and take it a bit further rather than just listening to podcasts and reading. So that was it really. I can't really say there was any other thing other than that. I just knew meditation would kind of help keep me calm, and that seemed to have an affinity.
Did you know anyone that had done hypnobirthing? Had you had any kind of recommendations for it?
No. So I think just coming across the book, I didn't read much of it last time. I genuinely think it's a bit of a plug for you. I was listening to your podcast a lot, and when I came across the book, and then because I just wanted something that was real, like quite a lot of the other podcasts or things that I was reading were very like I don't really know how to describe it, just not real enough. I wanted actual,
a bit airy fairy maybe,
and not necessarily that wasn't straight to like hypnobirthing, but just podcasts around that, or just things that I was coming across. And it wasn't until like really getting into it that I found positivebirthstory.com or whatever that, I can't remember that website, and your podcast, and it was more real, where I think probably I needed that rather than just to kind of stick my head in the sand and pretend it wasn't going to happen. So
definitely always best to prepare. Definitely
so
then once you'd done your course, once you'd finished the course, how did it change the way you felt? So you obviously had quite a bit of fear before about giving birth and about labour. How did it change, and what was it about it that changed your kind of view?
So I'm going to be completely honest, and my friends are all going to laugh at this because I love a soapbox, so I'm going to get right on it. I don't think I necessarily, my fear definitely didn't eradicate once I'd done the course. If anything, it probably intensified slightly just because of the knowledge, but it's weird because it's kind of like bittersweet. I had all the knowledge, but then almost like, oh no, I know too much. But it was more the like empowering and what that knowledge brought, if that makes sense. Like I could then what else did I need to know or not need to know? Like what could I just leave to like the day? But I think just learning, there are loads of facets of it like that I learned, and I think there's kind of a couple of things. One, Tony being involved, so daddy, and just kind of empowering him to empower me, and kind of understand where his views were, and just I think just the tools that it gives you that you can kind of pick and choose, because there are lots and lots of tools, but it's like you don't need to use all of them. I'm not sure if I've answered the question or not, to be honest.
You have, and actually what you were saying about it made you feel in a way more fearful, I can completely understand what you mean. And for anybody listening, I think sometimes it seems really tempting to, if you're scared of something, to just not think about it. And
yeah, that's me.
Because that's scarier if you think about it. And I hear of people doing that. And somebody told me once that for their previous birth, their birth prep was just to not think about it and kind of hope it would be okay. And I can completely understand why people would do that if they feel scared. But although it might feel scary at the time, because like you said, you're getting so much knowledge on it, that it probably does feel a bit scarier for some people who do have a real fear around it. It probably does intensify it. But what hopefully it does is on the day, it kind of all slots into place in a way, whereas if you've stuck your head in the sand and not done anything about it, on the day, you're much more likely to be like, what is going on? Whereas for you, hopefully you felt like you knew what was happening, and that in itself kind of takes a bit of that fear away, because you are like, oh, okay, like I know what my body's doing. I know what I can do to get through this.
Yeah.
So I do completely see what you mean, how it can at first intensify it. And for anyone who listens who has this kind of real fear around birth, I mean, I say it all the time, but we all have some form of fear around birth. Like it's just normal. But for some people like yourself as well, it's more intense, a more intense fear. But for anyone listening, that, don't let that put you off, because it is definitely more worthwhile on the day.
I think, you know what, sorry, I feel like I didn't articulate it at all, because I was trying to think of all the things, but I think
it's a good point, because I think that's important to say, because that is real. That's a real thing.
And it's a lot. There's a lot of information. I think like you take it over we did it over 4 weeks. And obviously you pick and choose what works for you. And there were some things that worked for Tony and I, and some things that didn't. We went really down like the script route, with him reading affirmations, really trying to like tap into the relaxation, the meditation that I'd kind of been doing for the past 2 years. I think the knowledge part was insane. Like, just, I think I'm very kind of, I'll do it my own way kind of thing. No one's going to tell me otherwise. But I think like the brains framework, and just empowering us to say no to stuff like induction, I was very against that, and I think it really taught me to understand like it was River's birth as well as mine. Like, so I think the knowledge around, I didn't want anyone examining me, I didn't want any kind of telling me like how much I was dilating. I didn't want any of that. Like, I was really against it, because I wanted him to come into the world like when he was ready. And I think that empowering and giving me the confidence more so to do it, rather than just kind of be like, oh yeah, you're medical, you should know. And I don't think I probably would have had some of that in me anyway. Like, I definitely didn't want a sweep of anything kind. I didn't want examinations, but there was more of like that kind of empowering that hypnobirthing really helped. And also the second thing was the physiology of it. Yeah, is that the right word? Of just knowing what was going on. So actually, like during, because I think mine was fairly quick. During the start, I knew I didn't want to kind of panic, and because I knew that those muscles were contracting up, I kind of was just like, right, just let it go, like, because that's what needs to happen, rather than you know, there are times when it gets intense, when you just like hold your body and you're like, oh, what's going on? But like definitely knowing that, I think that you showed a balloon video of like popping out the like, yeah, and just that was really good to kind of remember like during it as well.
I think as well, if you think how terrifying labour must feel for somebody who doesn't know all of that stuff is happening and doesn't know to just let go and
relax,
and let it happen, like that must be so terrifying, not knowing. And you know, I mean, like we said already, I get why you might want to avoid it, but it's better to know so that And what else I was going to say was, when I first met you guys, your first session, you were saying you were even thinking about an elective cesarean because that's how scared you felt about the labour process.
Yeah.
That was something that you were still like at the first session, like, no, I'm still open to that. And then by the second session, it'd been like a week. By the second session, you both came on.
We were in.
Different people. And we're like, no, I want to do it all as natural as possible now. And
so
into it, and something had clicked with you, and you were like, this is what we're doing. And I remember saying to like one of my friends, I was like, they just like were different people at the second session. Like we're fully in this. And from that moment on, you were both fully in it, and you had like read some of the scripts before I'd even got to reading them with you, and like you were like doing all your homework like in advance. You're like
little geeks,
straight A so you know, and that does have such an impact on how you then go to experience birth, because you're so into it. And I say it all the time, I say it to everybody I teach, and I've probably said it on the podcast loads, but the practice element of it is like key. You have to put that practice in, and it doesn't just work because you believe it's going to work. Like, life worked like that, but it doesn't. And like, you have to put that time in, and you have to be willing to
you know, it's even if like, you know, the practice, I think even if it doesn't, like my birth story shows, like I didn't do any of the relaxation stuff because on the day it just didn't feel right. It was quick, and so Tony stroking me did not do anything for me on the day. Like I put a calming playlist together that just wasn't on, so my fun playlist with Spice Girls and Take That and all of that kind of playing where I could sing to it, not that I did in the end because I was so like into myself, but it just didn't feel right. So I think the practicing actually whilst is there actually helps the anxiety beforehand as well, so it's channeling like any kind of fear that you have into that. And I think that that's really important to say, like it's not, you have to think about it. What helped me and Tony was not thinking about it as just a day, like this is the build up. It's like Tony kept saying to me, like it's coming anyway, like you literally can't avoid it, so let's do all we can. So I guess the homework bit was that for us, like just to get Tony on board, to kind of, he knew what was going to happen as well and what I needed or didn't need. So yeah, I guess that's not just the day thing
for you guys as well, like that. That's also an important part of it, is that it helps you guys bond, and it helps you bond with your baby before your baby's born. So it's nice. We rarely take like 10 minutes out of our day to focus on ourselves. We need to, but we just don't. So it's an excuse to take 10 minutes out and just focus on yourself and relax and do something calming. So it's definitely a benefit throughout your pregnancy as well. So tell us River's birth story.
So he was born on his due date, and has been kind of that fast ever since. Yes, so just all a bit impatient like us too. Just like full on. So I think the night he was born on a Friday, and just I obviously born in a C-section, and all of my preferences and stuff, I'd like had it in my head that it was going to be at night and it was going to be calm, and he was born like during the day, on a really hot day. My house is like really light as well, so everyone could see everything, and it was in a pool. Thursday kind of like woken up, just getting in the shower and had like a trickle. I was like, oh my God, my waters have broke. Obviously, drama central. Nothing like I should be with hypnobirthing. It's just like, Tony.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it was just more like, oh, okay. Because I think everyone had said as well, like first babies are late, and I think I just had it in my head that he was going to be over and I'd have to have these induction like conversations that I didn't want to have. So he calmed me down and was like, it's fine, it's not your waters, because you're literally fine. So just carried on. And yeah, just kind of felt like crampy on the Thursday. Nothing crazy. Literally didn't think anything of it after that. And then yes, Thursday night, I think there was a bit of a pop and I was like, okay, yeah, I think we're ramping up a bit. And just fell asleep Thursday because I remember listening to your podcast and the hypnobirthing, like, just forget about it, just try and just carry on as normal. So yeah, I think I woke up Friday and then yeah, things were like ramping up. I think I just wanted to ignore it as much as possible so that I could get to stage 2 like without any kind of craziness. So I actually FaceTimed my sister and was like, yeah, things are moving. My dad phoned and was like, when's baby Jeff? And I was like, I think today. And he was like literally like so excited. So I think that kind of put me in a good mood. I then baked cookies because I told my midwife the day before that I would, and I then hoovered my house.
I love that hoovering bit of your story.
Yeah,
like, that's brilliant.
I kind of like, I don't think I'd nested fully before, but I'd also read somewhere that you get a bit of energy, and I'm not sure I had energy, but I just did not want to sit. I couldn't sit down. I just needed to move about. And I think at this point, I think that I'd phoned my sister at 9. I was hoovering at 11. Tony had gone to the shop because I was like, we need bread for the toast afterwards, because they say toast sounds like tastes amazing. Yeah. And so I think at that point it actually ramped up and I'd kind of had to stop for every surge now. And so the house was upside down and I'd managed to hoover everything, but Tony came back in and I was upstairs at this point, and like the furniture was literally everywhere, and he was like, what the hell, what's going on? And then he realized I was upstairs. So that was from 9 till like 11:30, and he started like timing them because I just wasn't timing them, and we realized that they'd got more intense and I was having one surge with the break but then 2 back to back.
Right.
So the timing was off and I just didn't get any kind of respite between. And every time we called the midwives, they were like, can we speak to her? And I just started talking, and then I was like, there's another one coming. I just had to like pass the phone, and they were like, yeah, okay, we think it's ramping up. But I was just again a bit adamant that I didn't want anyone to turn up and be like, you're not far enough or whatever, and then go.
Yeah.
So I'd started kind of pacing upstairs, and my thing was just hanging off any door I could. So wardrobe door frames, because I think the pull on my back was just really like nice. Because him massaging me didn't really like work. It just wasn't right. I had to just be upright.
I did a similar thing in my first labour actually. I was in the shower at some point and I was doing the same, like
holding. Yeah. It feels amazing. I think just pulling like your back and just leaning over a bit. So yeah, I think this point I was kind of had to keep telling myself to relax. So that's where it kind of came in, just rather than letting it overpower me, as the intensity kind of ramped up, like just saying relax to myself like over and over. And then I think I ended up on the landing, like on all fours, trying to like breathe.
That's a good position as well for us.
Yeah. And I remember like I also follow like the Naked Doula on Instagram. She's amazing, and she has like, I kept trying to remember like knees in, calves out, to try and open my pelvis and be like comfortable. So all of this did come back to me at this point. So, and then I ended up in the toilet, which again, I'd read like so many women go to the toilet, and I was just like, that's really weird. But that's where I went. I was like, I need to be in here.
Said this before. I think I said it a couple of episodes ago when I was talking to somebody, but it's instinctive. Like you go to a small space that feels quite typically the bathroom is the smallest space in somebody's house. So you hear it so much that people they don't really know why. And also people just find sitting on the toilet a really comfortable position anyway.
Yes, I think that was it.
I feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's like a good height. It's but obviously this
your posture and things like that.
Yeah, and I think where the sink was, I could kind of lean. So I think that I don't know what time Tony like then called like the midwives again and said like, I think you need to come. So he was like up and down, like sort by this point trying to blow up the pool. And I just literally stayed upstairs like the whole time with him coming in and just checking on me, and because I think at that point I just didn't want anyone around too much, but him just being there when I needed him. And I think actually I did the majority of it all upstairs, and hit the transition. And I specifically remember Lizzie, my poor midwife, who I'd never met, because the home birth team obviously I was just, that's another thing that I didn't want to not have a midwife I'd met, but on the day you just don't care. I was just so like grateful to see her, and I was like, yeah, they're all great. And I just like was on the toilet at this point. I was like, I need to go to the toilet. Literally slammed the door in her face. But I just felt like I needed to go to the toilet, and she was just like, afterwards I opened the door and she was still there, and she was like, you didn't need to go to the toilet. I was like, no, I didn't. I know, but I felt like so bad. She's like, I'm just gonna check his heart rate now, and that's when she was like, the surgeries are pretty intense, but he seems fine. It's like, oh, as long as he's great. And then I think not long after that I was like, oh, I can't do this to Tony, and that's when like we needed to like really dig deep into the hypno. Which I, again, when you read or watch videos, you just don't know how that's going to feel, and you do just all of a sudden get a bit of like, oh god, this is intense, I don't know if I can do this.
It's your adrenaline. And I think the other thing is that you don't know at that point that it's almost over. So transition stage, I think, because you get this release of adrenaline, sometimes you're like, oh my god, like I can't do this for another 10 hours. Exactly that. It means that it's probably nearly over.
And I don't think I knew that. I read about the transition and watched videos and stuff, but I don't think I kind of correlated the two. And I think at this point I was probably a bit really into maybe like being a bit insular, and which is obviously good, but I think I again wasn't expecting it, because I was told your first labor was going to be really long, so I was just expecting that so much longer, and I was like, god.
Another reason as well, I think, so your labor was pretty speedy, so it was more intense. And so personally for me, from my experiences, I've had two different labors. I've had a long drawn out labor, and then I've had an intense short labor like yours. And obviously, like, I think if you talk to anybody, like the goal is to have a shorter labor as possible, because that definitely seems preferable. And I would say it probably is. But having experienced both, it's much I don't want to say easier.
I was going to say, you're going to say nice or easier, but I do get what you mean.
It's easier to get into like your hypnobirthing zone in a long labor. Because you've got loads of time, you can get on top of the surges, you can get on top of how you're feeling. Sometimes, so with my first labor, I was like in the pool for hours. I had all my twinkly lights, my lavender, I had it all, and I felt mega relaxed. But second time, and I remember you saying this to me when you first shared your story with me, you said, I don't feel like I hypnobirth very well. And I completely know what you mean, because I felt the same. And I think sometimes when it's quick, you almost feel like you can't get on top of it, how you're feeling. So
that's it.
You feel like you didn't do it. But the issue with when it's quick is that it's the same, your body's doing exactly the same thing, but in such a shorter amount of time. So of course it's going to be much more intense. And the other point is that you didn't know that your labour wasn't going to be really long. So at that point, you didn't know that your baby was going to be born soon. For all you knew, it could be another 24 hours of you feeling like that. Which is what makes you feel like I can't do this. Because I felt the same with my second. Because my first labour was so long, I thought, and it was much more intense second time, I thought, I can't do this for another 20 hours. Like, actually, the reality was I only needed to do it for another hour, because it was, it was shorter.
It was quick. Yeah, you don't.
That's where some of the panic comes from, and some of the I can't do this when you are having really fast labour, because you just don't realise it's about to be over.
I think that's, you know what, that goes back to like what you read. Like I read and had been told multiple times, it's your first baby, he'll be late, you'll have a really long labour. So like me going into that obviously I dealt with the intensity and it didn't come up in my head like a lot, but at that point I was like, oh god, yeah, like it's weird, because I don't want to say pain, because again, language was really important for me. But it was so intense, and I think that was when it ramped up, that I was like, how do I get out of the intensity out of my body? And that's when Lizzie was like, let's go downstairs, the pool will start, like, you know, will help. And it was so quick that Tony was still filling it. So when I got downstairs, I actually like was hanging over it from the outside in, just putting my hand in to feel the water whilst it was still being filled up. But yeah, that's the thing, like you hear so much that you then set this expectation when actually you just need to let your body do it. And I think, yeah, like you just said, I didn't feel like I could get on top of it, because I had one surge and then two back to back, and that was constant, I think, until I hit the pool, and maybe it slowed a bit and I could kind of get on top of it. Also, that's when I got gas and air, and Jesus, that stuff is great. So I remember listening to your podcast, you were saying like, I love gas and air, went through like loads of canisters or whatever. I think I went through 2. And at first, like, I was sucking on it so hard, and she was like, maybe breathe in normal air, like, as well, because you can't just have.
I want this. This is good.
Yeah, this is great. But I think that just gave another focus, the breathing of it.
Yeah, you focus on your breathing then.
Yeah, because I had to hold on to it and like really actually breathe in.
It also just makes you feel like you've had far too much to drink, and you feel a bit giddy, because you feel like, oh, I've had like a bottle of wine, I feel quite good. That kind of feeling. And not everybody likes it, but yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. I don't know whether, if I'd said that before, I don't know whether I would have liked that kind of feeling, although I do love a wine and really enjoy that kind of feeling with that. But I think maybe in birth I might have thought, maybe I want to be into it a bit more. But I think just it just helped me focus, I think, like on something, and to try and breathe the intensity out. And I think that's when I probably started getting a bit louder. I feel really sorry for my neighbours, because all the doors were open, the pool was like downstairs. Doesn't matter. But and I was so into it and into the gas and air, that's when my waters broke, and I didn't even know. It was Tony that told me afterwards. And then I jumped in the pool, and I think I was only in the pool for about 45 minutes before he arrived. So Lizzie arrived at about 2, and I jumped in the pool maybe about an hour and a bit later, still on the gas and air, like, just I felt, I don't know now how anyone births lying down. It's amazing, because all I wanted to be was on all fours. Like, I was hanging over everything, like even when I was in the pool, I was hanging out of it. Still with gas and air.
All these programs we watch where people are relaxed, it just seems like the worst position to be in. The
pressure, surely, like, you want to get it off your butt. So
in the water,
amazing. So kind of hung over the pool, and I was only in there 45 minutes, and I had a bit of coaching towards the end with the second midwife. I think Tony felt a bit overwhelmed at this point, because I was really like, what's going on, and couldn't kind of catch my breath, or I knew I needed to breathe him down, but I didn't kind of know how. And this is again how you go back to preferences. Like, didn't want any coaching, but at that point she was right there for me, helped me, and Yeah, and you just go with it. Like in it, you have all of these things in your head, but at that time, she really, really helped me, and Tony was there as well. And yeah, and I just kind of, I think I sounded a bit like a bear at this point, like breathing him out. But yeah, got through the crowning and birthing his head, and I think I didn't realize I'd birthed his head. And at that point, I'd said to Tony and Lizzie, "Am I going to meet him today?" Like, because I just thought that I was still going to go through all of this for like, yeah, didn't know because I was so into it. Yeah, like, yeah, felt like obviously the crowning and stuff, because she told me it will feel different, and I just was like, great, and just carried on. Yeah, so he was head out, and I said, like, is he going to arrive today? So they had a giggle at that behind my back. And then I think 7 minutes later, yeah, like a couple of breaths, and he was out, and I was like, what? At one point he'd gone back up when he was crowning, so I think when he was out I was like, okay, thank
yeah, that does happen. They kind of get sucked back, back up.
Weird. It's really a weird feeling. I was like, did he go back in? And they were like, yeah.
Totally normal though, totally normal.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, and then birthed him, and he had his cord wrapped around a bit, so Lizzie helped with that, and then he was on me, and it was mad, like
changing.
The ending of it, just him being born in water, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh god, this is what I've been doing for like 5 hours. Yeah, amazing.
That's a very quick birth. I mean, a generalization, you would say probably first labors are a bit longer. They're not all hugely long. They're typically longer than like a second labor, because your body's never done it before, so your body's doing it for the first time. But actually, a few people that I've taught recently have had really quick labors like you, and first time babies as well. And it's lovely to hear that actually it isn't always a really long drawn out process. I think you try to prepare people for just in case, but actually I've had so many first time mums recently that have had quick labours, which is great. The other thing I was going to say was about your birth preferences, and you saying that you had certain things on them, and then that you didn't want that on the day.
Yeah.
And that's really important, and that's why they're just birth preferences. Obviously we can say what we want, but on the day you're never going to know how you're going to feel. So you can absolutely say like, I don't want this, but you can absolutely change your mind on the day.
Yeah.
Want to, because you've never done it before. So how do you know you're not going to want to be massaged, or you're not going to want someone to read scripts to you? And I get birth partners ask me sometimes when I'm teaching them, like, what do I need to do? Do I need to massage her if she asks me to? Do I need to read to her if she asks me to? And I always just say, like, just whatever she wants. Like, if she doesn't near her, then
don't even go. Yeah.
Some people want to be like touched and stroked in labour because that relaxes them, that makes them feel good. But some people just think, don't touch me, like nobody touch me. And it's a bit like if you're feeling poorly, some people like to be like cuddled, some people and you're never going to know until the day, because if you've not done it before, that's a good reason to write birth preferences, so that you have an idea, but you don't religiously stick to them. So have you got what kind of advice do you think you would give to somebody in your position who feels maybe a little bit more fear around birth than perhaps the average person?
I definitely think hypnobirthing, for one, of course, was super helpful. And whilst I've said I didn't use all the techniques, I do think, like, during it, I think just the preparation is just so important. And also I think learning, I'm a bit of a control freak, learning that I can't do that and I have to relinquish control, and learning to almost surrender to the process really, really helped. Again, just all the knowledge. I think it's just the knowledge. It's just around, like, even if I went into hospital, like, I could take lavender, I could take my pillow, I could take twinkly lights, and just having that empowering, just the being empowered, from that. So definitely hypnobirthing. I also did hypnosis alongside it, just to kind of give me that extra boost. So I had a kind of probably about 2 hours of that, which really helped me. I just think that, I honestly think hypnosis really helped also to really meditate and just kind of visualize. I'm quite a visual person. So if you're not, it might not help. But again, learning to surrender from the process. I'd say language is really key. Me and Tony took out, the word pain. We made it, a bit fun, like it's going to come anyway. So language is really important in the way you talk about it. Practice again. Language, just practicing hypnobirthing, but I just think hypnobirthing really helps. And also, actually, the final thing, I think my labour might have been quick because I was active throughout my entire pregnancy and also through labour. I didn't sit down because I just couldn't, and that's very me. Like, I'm very go, and I wonder whether that had a thing of
that you did at the beginning.
Just but I mean, obviously it's each to their own, but these things kind of really helped me to keep moving because it kind of kept my brain occupied rather than just sitting on it.
Staying as active as you can throughout pregnancy and also your labour, like, it's always going to help. If you feel able to kind of move around during your labour, then absolutely. And actually, that's something that I also tell everybody, that don't just go in and lay on a bed because that's what you see on TV. If you genuinely feel like you want to lay down, like your instincts telling you to lay down, but if you just go in and lay down because that's what we see, you don't need to do that. You're not ill, don't need to hop into bed. There's nothing wrong with you. Walk around, you don't have to change into your pajamas, you can leave your normal clothes on.
I think just rolling with it. I honestly, I know it's hard because you're looking for a piece of advice, but I think it's tricky because the one piece of advice I heard was literally on your podcast, where I wanted his birth to be not traumatic, and which is why I changed from C-section to like as natural as possible at home. And I told my sister, she was like, what? Are you sure about that? But I think just literally follow like your instincts, because we've said about writing those preferences, but on the day it's just rolling with your body and trusting your body. Like, I don't think I gave myself enough credit for it to know what it needed, like sitting in the bathroom and whatever, needing gas and air when I didn't know I would, and stuff like that.
Do you think your family and friends beforehand, sort of when you said, I want to have home birth, I want to have it as natural as possible, do you think there was a bit of, all right then, good luck with that, from them?
But I've been fearful, just to reiterate this, since forever, to the point where I almost wouldn't have done this, and I can't tell you why. It's not, maybe it is a media thing, but I think I just like, even when you see positive birth videos, you're just like, okay, that is it's going to be a bit intense, you can't get away from it as much as you want to. So I think when I told my sister that I'd done a U-turn, she was just like, okay, you sure about that? But I just knew I think it was just so important for me and for him, that is basically what I kept thinking about. It was just as important. It's not me, it's him. He's the one dictating. He can't come out until he tells me to. So I think I relinquished that control, and then if anyone said anything negative, I was like, well, it's not up to you. It's actually not even up to me. So
do they feel differently now, so after your experience?
I think like I'm more of a badass now to everyone. Like, not only were you scared of it, you wanted a C-section, but you didn't just do it naturally, you went home. But for me, there was no in between. Like, I it was either full-on medical or nothing, because I just thought of doing all of that.
Maybe you couldn't put yourself in a medical environment, because then the temptation of it then being fully medical would be you have to just avoid. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So going from a C-section to like
home birth and being all into that really gave me focus, and it's not that surprising to us to do the U-turn like that. But yeah, I think the in between just doesn't sit right with me. But it is amazing how many people have said, oh, you're really brave, and like pregnant people now, and they say like, oh, I don't know if I would do it, and that just makes me a bit sad, because there's nothing really medical about it, and the midwives know if anything's wrong straight away, like, and you'd be so much happier at home. Like
the fear around, I hear it a lot. It's the fear around being at home in case something happens. But I just try and explain it so much to people, that because I hear people say like, oh, I just would feel safer in hospital just in case something's wrong. And I just always try to say, but the chances of something going wrong are so much more in hospital than at home anyway. These things don't tend to happen at home, like these kind of emergency situations, or not even emergency, because a true emergency is very rare. You know, these kind of interventions that you see in a hospital that are needed, they wouldn't be needed at home in the first place. And but you have to believe it. Like, you can't try to convince someone on something, and I would never obviously try to convince somebody where to give birth. They have to be happy. But the most important thing that somebody can do for themselves is just read and research and increase their knowledge about everything, because how can you make a decision about where you want to give birth unless you have all the facts?
All of the facts. So
many people don't have all the facts, because it's very one-sided. Home birth, like you said, is seen as, you're very brave, particularly for a first birth, like, oh, you know, you're brave and all of this, or you were lucky that it happened like that for you, and it seemed very like that. So it's one-sided.
It's strange. It's really strange. I think, like, you're right, it's just knowing stats and stuff, and you don't need to read and kind of absorb everything, but just know it's not even like knowing the percentages, but it's knowing like, oh, you know, if it's the same with like, if you go overdue, for example, you're at risk of X if you go overdue by a certain amount. But actually, if you look at the percentage, I don't know the full percentage, but I know it's only like 0.2 higher.
1%.
Yes, exactly. So it's all well and good saying, oh yeah, the risk is higher, but that's kind of like true but not true, and you're giving me that fact in a really weird way.
That's what I mean. So that's where the empowerment comes from, because it's up to you, it's up to the person who's giving birth to ask for the actual, you know, the caregivers just kind of give you one piece of pie. They give you the scary figure, not because they're trying to scare everybody, but maybe they don't know the actual figures, or, you know, maybe that's just how they operate. But up to the person to take responsibility and say, oh, when you say it increases by 50%, what is the actual figure?
What is exactly, because you just hear that and you think, oh god, that is scary. And, you know, for a first time mum, that would be and I think, like, all of the books that you recommended and other people recommended, I kind of listened, like read and took the bits I knew that I needed. But like home birth for me is, I went afterwards, he was born, it was amazing. Tony made coffee for everyone ate the cookies that I'd baked on the day. We were like on the sofa and then had the toast before the shower and stuff, and everyone had gone. He was born at 20 to 5 and everyone had gone by 8, and I was eating a Lebanese takeaway at 8:30 because I was so hungry, and that's all I'd been thinking about, hummus and chips and salad. That's all I wanted, and I was eating that at like 8:30 with River in our living room, with like no sign of, everything has been put back to normal.
Puts everything away, like there's no like mess and blood all up the walls. Like,
but there was exactly, like no blood up the walls. I love it. There was none of that. The pool was away, and I think at that point, that was when we had our twinkly lights. It was calm, and there was no medical environment, no other babies screaming, like no Tony being told he potentially had to leave and I'd be on my own. You know, we were just in our home, and it was amazing.
One of the most amazing parts about giving birth at home. And again, I've done both. And second time, when we were saying, like, everyone had left after like maybe like a couple of hours after she'd been born, everyone had gone, and we sort of just sat on the sofa. Like, and we'd already had a baby, so it wasn't like, oh, what do we do? But we were just kind of like, oh, okay, because we were comparing it to our our experience before, where we were
Yeah.
in hospital and like we were being moved to a different room or whatever was happening. It just felt like, oh, I guess I'll have a shower then, shall I? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
a normal day. It was so bizarre, but amazing. Like, you cannot describe how wonderful it is to be in your own space after you've
At home. Yeah.
But, you know, obviously I have to say, wherever anyone is comfortable is the main thing, because some people are more comfortable in hospital, which is
sure.
But yeah, I think home birth needs talking about, because it is so one-sided and the view of it is so wrong. Although it's coming around a bit more now. People are, a lot more people are giving birth at home now, which is great. And from my experience, again, of teaching people, a lot more people are choosing to give birth at home, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm all for it. I'm like an advocate now.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. Like, I feel like it's so helpful for people who, because you were so scared, and again, like, just to talk about your change from when I saw you from like one week to another, it was like two different people, and it was amazing. And when you messaged and told me that you'd had River and you told me your story, I couldn't have been more happy for you that you had got this amazing experience that you wanted. Just
thank you.
So thank you for sharing your story, and I'm sure so many people will find it so helpful.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
And thank you. And River is gorgeous, and I hope he is doing well. And you posted, is he a couple of months now?
Yeah, so 8.5 weeks. So like literally they say it blink, and he's 8.5 weeks. So he's a babe. Little sleep thief, but he's a babe.
They do.
Yeah.
You get your sleep back eventually.
Good. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Don't worry, it comes back after a couple of years, maybe.
Don't tell me. No. I'm like, now.
No.
Get rid of me now.
No, it comes back. It's fine. They only steal it for a little while. And also, it's kind of, once it's not there anymore, once those night feeds aren't there where it's just you sat with them, it's kind of special. I know at the time you're like exhausted.
Yeah.
Just let me sleep. But speaking from
you have to surrender it to it. Sorry to cut in. It's the same process of like surrendering to this, because it's just temporary.
I kind of I like being able to sleep at night now, but I do miss sometimes those little like midnight cuddles, and where it feels like you're the only people awake in the whole world. There's something kind of special about it. So that doesn't last forever, and it is kind of special to look back on it. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you. It's been amazing talking to you.
No worries.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.